Today's concept is percentage. First video, percentage 1. First, what is percent? Cent means century. Cent means century. Century means per 100. So, percent means per 100. Exact meaning is per every 100. Per every 100. Exact meaning is per every 100. Per every 100 can be written as, per every 100 can be written as 1 by 100. Can be written as 1 by 100. Symbol, this is the symbol for the percentage, line and 2 dots it is. So percent means century, century means 100. So percent means per 100, per 100 means per every 100. It can be written as 1 by 100. So this is the percent symbol. So symbol value itself is equal to 1 by 100. Symbol value itself is equal to 1 by 100. At anywhere percent symbol is there, in place of that you take 1 by 100. Now observe the example here, x percent. X percent means x by 100. X percent means x by 100. Now see here, 10%. What is 10%? 10 by 100. What is 10 by 100? 1 by 10. Always put the fraction in simplified form. So 10 by 100 means 0, 0 gets cancelled, 1 by 10 it is. 20% means 20 by 100. 20 by 100 is how much? 1 by 5. 25% means 25 by 100. 25 by 100 means 25 ones, 25 fours gets cancelled. So what is its value? 1 by 4. Now similarly 50%. What is 50%? 50 by 100. 50 by 100 means 51, 52 gets cancelled. So what is its value? 1 by 2. 75%. 75 by 100. So cancel with 25. 25 threes, 25 fours gets cancelled. So its value will be 3 by 4. So these values you have to put in your mind. 10% 1 by 10. 25% 1 by 4, 50% 1 by 2, 75% 3 by 4. This we can use in the future classes directly. Instead of calculating 25%, you calculate 1/4. Instead of calculating 50%, you calculate 1 by 2. Instead of calculating 75%, you calculate 3/4 of the value. That is the strategy you have to follow. Now, similarly, now here by observing, percentage converting to fraction, 50% 1 by 2, 25% 1 by 4, 75% 3 by 4. Percentage converting to fraction. Similarly, how can you convert fraction into percentage also? That is also very important. How can you convert fraction into percentage? See here, how can you convert fraction into percentage? Take any fraction a by b. A by b, how can you convert into percentage? Into 100 and percent symbol. If you write into 100, definitely put the percent symbol. Otherwise, it is not correct. A by b is not equal to a by b into 100. When it becomes equal, if you put the percent symbol, symbol value itself is 1 by 100. Symbol value itself is 1 by 100. If you take 1 by 100 here, 100 into 1 by 100 gets cancelled, you get a by b. Understood? So at anywhere in percentage, if you write into 100, definitely put the percent symbol. Then only it is correct. So a by b equal to how much percent now? A by b into 100 and percent symbol. Take some examples here. 1 by 4. What is 1 by 4? 1 by 4 into 100. So into 100, 4 ones, 425 gets cancelled. So what is its value? 25%. 25%. Similarly, take another fractions here. 3 by 4. What is 3 by 4? How much percent again? 3 by 4 into 100 and percent symbol. 4 ones, so 425 gets cancelled. Now 25 3 is 75. In this way, we convert from fraction to percentage. Any fraction, convert into percentage, into 100 and put the percent symbol. Now, next keynote. How to calculate 10%, 1%, 0.1%. Very, very important calculation. By using this, we can calculate any percent. 10%, 1%, 0.1%. We know 10% means, so what is 10%? 10 by 100. 10 by 100 means 1 by 0, 0 gets cancelled. 1 by 10, 1 by 10 can be written as 0.1. So 10% means 0.1. 1% means 1 by 100. 1 by 100 means in the denominator two zeros are there, means you put decimal after 2 digits from right. So 1 by 100 can be written as 0.01. So 1% is 0.01. 0.1% is 1 by 1000. 1 by 1000 means 3 zeros are there. So 0.001. 0.001. So by using this, you can calculate for any value 10%, 1%, 0.1%. By observing these examples here, 10% means you put the decimal after one digit from right. 1% means you put the decimal after two digits from right. 0.1% means after three digits, you put the decimal. After one digit, after two digits, after three digits. 10%, 1%, 0.1%. That you have to fix in your mind. So 10% means after one digit you put the decimal, 1% means after two digits you put the decimal. So 0.1% means after three digits you put the decimal for any value. Now see some examples I gave here. 3, 4, 5, 6, one example I gave. Now in this 3, 4, 5, 6, what is the 10% value? How can you calculate? Just to place the decimal after units place value. So 345.6. In 3, 4, 5, 6, what is 10%? 345.6. After decimal, one digit is there. Now 1% means after decimal, two digits is there here. So 34.56. So 0.1% means after decimal, three digits it is. So 3.456. Understood? 10%, 1%, 0.1%. How can you calculate? Now by using that, now observe another example I gave. 4,000. In 4,000, what is 10%? 400. 1%, 40. What is 0.1%? 4. So after decimal, you put the decimal. After one digit, you put the decimal. So after decimal 0, there is no value. In 4,000, what is 10%? So 400.0. 400.0 means after decimal, there is no value for 0. So cancel that one. So in 4,000, 10% is 400. In 4,000, 1%. What is 1%? So after two digits, you put the decimal. So 40.00. What is 40.00? 40 it is. 0.1% means in 4,000, 0.1% after three digits you put the decimal. So 4.000. So what happens is it gets cancelled. 0.1%. So 10%, 1%, 0.1% is very important for your calculation part it is. Now how to calculate 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, 3% and 0.4%. See here how can you calculate? Very simple strategy we follow to calculate all these cities. So 20% value, how can you calculate 20% value? So 10% value is the base into 2. How can you calculate 20% value? 10% value into 2. Similarly, 30% value, how can you calculate? 10% value into 3. See here, 10% value into 3. 10% into 3. 10% into 3. 40%, how can you calculate? 10% value into 4. 10% assume in your mind. We know 10% means just to place the decimal after units place value. That can be multiplied by 2, get 20%. That can be multiplied by 3, get 30%. That can be multiplied by 4, you get 40% it is. Similarly, 5%, how can you calculate? 10% value by 2. 10% is the base always. 5%, how can you calculate? 10% value assume in your mind and by 2, half of that one gives 5% value. Similarly, by using 1%, 3%, 4%, 7%, how can you calculate? 3% value, how can you calculate here? 3% value, how can you calculate? 1% assume in your mind into 3. We know 1% means after two digits you put the decimal. From right, after two digits you put the decimal. So into 3. 3% how can you get? 1% into 3. 4% how can you get? 1% into 4. That is the strategy you have to follow. 7% how can you calculate? 1% value into 7. Similarly, 0.3%, 0.6%, 0.9%, how can you calculate? By using 0.1% as well. 0.3%, how can you calculate 0.1% value into 3? We know how can you calculate 0.1% value. After 3 digits, you put the decimal. Just you have to assume in your mind, need not necessary to write on the paper. Just assume in your mind, after 3 digits, put the decimal into 3, you get 0.3%. Into 4, you get 0.4%. Into 6, you get 0.6%. Into 9, you get 0.9% it is. So 10%, 1%, 0.1% is very important for the calculation part of percentage. Now based on this, how can you calculate? So concept problems I will discuss now. Concept problem. How can you calculate 10%, 20%? See the example you can understood very easily. Observe the examples here. Now 10% of 9578. What I said? Just to place the decimal after units place value for any value. Now here 9578. What is 10% of that value? 957.8. 957.8. Just replace the decimal after unit place value. Similarly, observe one more example here. One more example, 20% of 324. How can you calculate 10%? Just to place the decimal after unit place value, assume in your mind that can be multiplied by 2. What is the 10% of that value? 32.4. 32.4 into 2. 32.4 into 2. How much its value? 64.8. So strategy you have to put in your mind. How can you calculate 20% for any value? 10% value, assume in your mind, need not necessary to write on the paper. That can be multiplied by 2 directly. So 34.2 into 2, we can get 64.8 directly, 20% value. Similarly, 30% value, how can you calculate? 30% value, how can you calculate again? 30% of 123. 10%, 12.3. That can be multiplied by 3 directly. 12.3 into 3. 12.3 into 3. What is 12.3 into 3? 36.9. This is the strategy you have to follow. Now observe one more example. Example 4. 5% of 468. What I said, how can you calculate 5%? 10% value given in your mind? By 2. Half of that one. 10% by 2. 10% we know 46 point. 10% we know 46.8 it is. In 468, what is 10%? 46.8. 46.8. Half of that one by 2. Half of that what it happened? 23.4. 23.4. Similarly, observe fifth example. Now here fifth example, 3% of 243. 3%, how can you calculate 1% value into 3? How can you get 1% value? After 2 digits you put the decimal in 243. What is 1%? 2.43. 2.43, that can be multiplied by 3. 2.43 is 1%, that can be multiplied by 3. You can get 3% value, 7.29. Similarly, now 7% of 9. How can you calculate 7% of 9 again? Calculate 1% value. What is the 1% value in 9? 0.09, 0.09, 0.09. That can be multiplied by 7. You can get 7% value. 1% value into 7. 1% is 0.09 into 7. 7 9 is 63, 0.63. That is the 7% of 9. 1% into 7. You can get 7%. Similarly, example 7. See here, example 7. 0.4% of 0.4% of 2134. How can you calculate 0.4%? Assume in your mind 0.1%. We know how can you calculate 0.1%? After 3 digits, you put the decimal. In 2134, what is 0.1%? 2.134. 2.134. That can be multiplied by 4. 0.1% into 4 gives 0.4%. 0.1% means you put the decimal after 3 digits. 2.134 into 4. So 48.536. Similarly, 8th question. 0.9% of 0.9% of 8. 0.9%, how can you calculate? 0.1% value into 9. What is 0.1% value in 8? After 3 digits, you put the decimal 0.008. In 8, what is 0.1% value? 0.008. After decimal 3 digits, that can be multiplied by 9. You can get 0.9%. 0.008 into 9. How much its value? 0.072. Now, question number 9. Now, what is question number 9 here? 25% of 1200. Already I said, instead of calculating 25%, what you do? 1/4 of the value. What is 1/4 of? We know 25% is 1/4. 25% is 1/4. 1/4 of 1200. What is 1/4 of 1200? 300. At anywhere 25%, how can you calculate? 1/4. 50%, how can you calculate? Half. 75%, how can you calculate? 3/4. Now observe the 10th example here. What is the 10th example? 75%. So instead of 75%, what you do? You have to calculate 3/4. 75% means 3/4. So 3 by 4 into 1600. Now 4/4 gets cancelled here. 400 into 3. How much it is? 1200. 1200. Understood all of you? This is the first video, very basic video on percentage. Now observe this quotation. Preparation today decides your placement tomorrow. Very important quotation. Preparation today decides your placement tomorrow. Thank you to all of you.